Well, very good. Another hello and welcome to Solar Alberta's 2022 Solar Show. This evening, we are delighted to share with you Retraining in Renewables, at which we will hear about the experiences of Sarah Grant of Goldfinch Energy, Darryl Kaminski of Edmonton Public Schools, and Luisa Da Silva of Iron and Earth. Please note that we have enabled closed captioning for this presentation. You can turn the live transcript captioning on in the toolbar at the bottom of your Zoom screen. My name is Heather McKenzie, and I am the Executive Director at Solar Alberta. I would like to take a minute to acknowledge that while Solar Alberta serves members and the general public from Treaty 6, 7, and 8, I am presenting to you today from Amiskwaciy-Waskahegan, also known as Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, which is located on Treaty 6 territory and the homelands of the Métis Nation. Treaty 6 territory is the traditional gathering place and home of many Indigenous peoples, including Papachase, Cree, Saulteaux, Dene, Blackfoot, and Nakota Sioux, nations whose ancestors have cared for and nurtured these lands since time immemorial. Please note that we will be recording this session and making it available on our website and YouTube channel in the coming weeks. We were delighted to have so many people register for this week and for this event in particular. To start, we just want to thank the City of Edmonton, Change for Climate, for sponsoring the 2022 Solar Show as a whole. And we would also like to thank Lakeland College for sponsoring this session in particular. We're happy and grateful to have them both as sponsors. Following the presentation this evening, there will be a Q&A period in which you can all participate. The formal Q&A will run until about 1/4 the hour, and then we will be inviting you to join us for an additional 15 minutes in a more relaxed Zoom meeting Q&A at the end. The link for the extended Q&A will be posted in the chat at the end of the formal Q&A, and I will draw your attention to it at that time. So please make sure to click on the link before leaving the webinar. The entire session will wrap up in 1.5 hours. As this is an online conference and trade show, I would like to encourage you all to check out our online trade show during the week. We have listed here all the wonderful organizations who are participating in the trade show. To view their exhibitor booths, which include a listing of key solar-related services, contact info, and video introductions, please click on the link in the chat. During our formal Q&A period, we will be using Zoom Q&A for questions rather than the chat box. So please enter your questions in the Q&A section. Also, you can click on the little thumbs up symbol to upvote questions that you like. Before we move forward, we're going to do a quick poll to get a sense of who we have joining us today. And Lorraine, I'm going to ask you to launch the poll, please. For some reason, it's not showing up. Oh, there we go. Thank you so much.
I just launched it. No problem.
Awesome. Appreciate it. So there we go. If you could take a minute, everyone, and just fill out your familiarity with solar and all things renewable, we'd appreciate it. And while folks are doing the poll, I encourage you to take a minute and pop your name, land acknowledgement, and any contact info you're comfortable sharing in the chat as well. That way, throughout the event, others can look you up on LinkedIn and start building some relationships. How's the poll coming there? Do you think it's ready for us to finish it up and have a look at who's in the room?
Just 50% of the people participated so far, but we'll just give it a couple more seconds.
All right, as long as we have a representative sample, I think. That's good. Thank you. Okay, there we go. So we thought that might be the case. Lots of curious folks here today, and a few students and industry professionals. That's great. And lots of folks have been attending events this past week and perhaps before. Also good to see many of you are joining us again tomorrow. So thank you for taking a minute to do that. It's really helpful, I find, for all of our presenters to know a little bit about the rest of you who are in the room. And now I'm just going to share a little bit about Solar Alberta. This is actually our 31st year of operation. Solar Alberta is a not-for-profit society that is dedicated to accelerating Alberta's transition to a just and sustainable energy future. We do so by advocating, educating, and serving as an industry and community hub for the solar sector. Our membership is made up of over 350 individuals and businesses. We provide a number of services, including managing a solar directory through our website. In this way, we act as a bridge for installers and suppliers to connect with their customers and clients. You can see a screenshot of the directory here on this slide. In addition to our website services, we run a number of educational programs, such as the Solar Seminar Series, new multilingual Solar 101 workshops, including one in Hindi that's planned for February 23rd, and of course, this incredible annual solar show. We're very proud to share that in 2021, our solar show reached people from over 60 different municipalities and counties around the province. And you can see little pin drops of them on this map here. With over 2,700 session attendees registered for our show this week, we are anticipating excellent reach across our province and around the world once again. In addition to our live online programming, you can also check out some great content on our website from our 2021 show. Much of it is still relevant today. We have spaced out our sessions this week in such a way that you could easily, hopefully easily, view one of those other sessions in between live webinars. And for those of you who are solar industry professionals or transitioning into the sector, you will be pleased to learn that we have also now made available all of our paid content from last year's solar show via our new pay-per-download training service. You can go to the training video link in the chat to find those affordable workshops. In addition to some solar show workshops that are industry oriented, this spring we will once again be running a number of online courses for solar industry professionals or those transitioning into the sector. Our 7 courses are online Tuesday and Thursday evenings on 3 to 5 nights over 2 to 3 weeks. You can already register for all of our courses at the link provided in the chat. Those include a brand new course about working with Alberta's wire providers. Also, if the course you're interested in isn't offered at a time that works for you, you can now pay to download most of our past course content. These recorded courses are available alongside our paid past solar show workshops in the new solar training video section of our website. Just want to take this opportunity to quickly encourage y'all to join Solar Alberta as members. For this week only, we are offering a discount on our individual and student memberships. To celebrate having turned 30 in 2021, this week you can purchase an individual or student membership with a 30% discount. The link to become a member is also being placed in the chat. On March 16th, we'll be hosting our annual general meeting, and I just want to invite y'all to sign up as Solar Alberta members, attend, and elect your new board. There are a number of vacancies to fill on the board this year, so if you're interested in applying to serve on the board, you can do so through our website until February 18th. And if you can't quite commit to board work, but you'd love to support us in another way, please consider volunteering or donating. Volunteers are eligible for free membership and $100 off a course each year after committing 15 hours to Solar Alberta. The links to sign up as a volunteer or donate are now in the chat. And last but not least, I want to take this opportunity to mention that this past year, Solar Alberta won an Emerald Award. As part of our Emerald Award, the Emerald Foundation kindly made a short documentary about Solar Alberta. After the session, you can feel free to check it out in the link we're sharing now in the chat. We're really proud and thankful to have been recognized in this manner for the 2nd time in our history. And now I'm really delighted to get the session underway by introducing our sponsor for today, Kathleen Couturier with Lakeland College. She'll briefly introduce Lakeland College to us, as well as then introducing our 3 storytellers for the evening. So Kathleen, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to stop my screen share and mute myself, and you just take it away.
Thank you very much, Heather, and welcome everyone to the Solar Show Retraining in Renewables event. Lakeland College is a proud sponsor of this event and a proud supporter of Solar Alberta. What a great opportunity to briefly introduce you to our Sustainable Energy Technology Diploma program. As you certainly know, retraining and changing career is rarely an easy decision unless you can make it fit your schedule and take smaller risks. Coincidentally, our courses are offered online and are flexible for anyone who wants to retrain while still working at their day jobs. Our graduates are ready to access employment in the renewable energy industry. Employment opportunities can vary from installer to sales and services, working with municipalities and government, or start your own renewable energy business. As part of our programming, we offer an introduction to solar energy and a solar PV systems course. We're also registered training providers with NAPCEP for the solar PV associate and for the PV installation professional and PV commissioning and maintenance specialist exams. NAPCEP is extremely well recognized in the industry and can help our graduates find employment. Our diploma program also focuses on biofuel and bioenergy, energy efficiency and conservation, geoexchange, as well as wind technology. We offer shorter trainings such as solar PV, energy exchange, to which we currently accept applications, energy advisor, and bioenergy and biofuel micro-credentials. This is where students receive short but focused training and earn a credential at Lakeland College, an accredited post-secondary institution. We've been around since 1913 and have had great success story that continues today. If you've been wondering how to make your renewable energy education possible, our program may be the answer you've been seeking. For more information, please get in touch with me. I'll put a link in the comments. We at Lakeland would love to be your way forward for smooth career transition. My hope is that this session will inspire you to take a leap of faith, and I'd love to help you with that. But enough about me and my program. Without further ado, I will introduce you to your next three panelists. Our first panelist is Sarah Grant with Goldfinch Energy. Our second panelist is Darryl Kaminski with Edmonton Public School Board. And our last but not least is Luisa Da Silva with Iron and Earth. Let me tell you a bit about each of these wonderful people. Sarah Grant holds degrees in engineering and computer science and leadership experience in renewable energy and local food systems. Sarah likes to say that people's home are like puzzle I love solving. It's about finding the pieces that fit together to create a beautiful picture of comfort, savings, and lower emissions. Sarah Grant has experience across the globe in renewable energy, software as a service, and executive leadership with both startups and nonprofits. She's seen countless examples around the world where behavior change and systemic transformation are the bottlenecks rather than technology. She's driven to address this issue through clean tech solutions that drive deep emission reductions. She's relentless about data collection, data utilization, user experience, and she's never one to shy away from a good challenge. In her spare time, she enjoys fermenting foods, community betterment, cycling, and playing ball hockey. It's a pleasure to have you, Sarah, and I invite you all to extend a warm welcome to Sarah in the comments box. Please don't be shy to use emojis. Darryl Kaminski. As a kid, Darryl Kaminski enjoyed tinkering with hobby store electronic kits. He's keenly aware that describing a solar converting light waves to power a transistor converting radio waves into sound is magical and quaint. In his early career working in digital media, he tracked an increasing number of new energy stories through the 90s. Advanced batteries, wind turbines, and solar technologies all were gaining momentum. Daryl wanted to do more than translate tech into fascinating stories. He wanted to be part of the impact of that tech. So he went back to school to study electrical engineering technology at SAIT in Calgary. Daryl later went on to work as an energy auditor, PV integration specialist, and electrical design lead, and gained his credentials as a lead accredited professional, certified energy technologist, and certified energy manager. He is currently the energy coordinator for the Edmonton Public School Board, EPSB, where he oversees the energy and utility portfolio and advises on energy efficiency and solar energy opportunities. EPSB currently has over 2,700 kilowatts of installed solar generation capacity, with another 3,000 kilowatt due by the end of 2022. Daryl is proud to be the current president of Solar Alberta, now celebrating its 31st year. We're grateful to have you with us today, Daryl, and please everyone give a warm welcome to Daryl in the comments. Luisa Da Silva, Bachelor of Science, professional geologist, MBA, began her career in the fossil fuel industry of Northern Alberta and has over 20 years experience in the energy, mining, education, and not-for-profit sectors. After a successful career as a professional geoscientist, Luisa moved to the United Kingdom to work in digital transformations and to pursue an executive Master's of Business Administration. She has been influenced by her experiences in mining and exploration both in Canada and abroad. Luisa worked with one of Canada's top environmental charities before joining Iron and Earth as their now executive director. In her spare time, Luisa is an outdoor enthusiast and spends as much time in nature as possible. Transitioning to green solutions has been a lifelong journey. Along the way, Luisa learned that she is enthusiastic about educating others and enabling them to transition to fulfilling careers. Thank you very much, Luisa, for joining us tonight. Please, everyone, extend a warm welcome to Luisa in the comment box. What a great lineup of panelists. I am looking forward to hear all your success stories. I will now be passing on the microphone to Sarah.
Oh, you're just muted there, Sarah.
Thank you, Kathleen, for the lovely introduction. Before I begin my story, I just want to do a bit of a land acknowledgement, taking a little bit from this fantastic book, Indigenous Toronto, Stories That Carry This Place. And I'll read. This was historically a place of bounty. It was a seasonal meeting place, a place for trade and ongoing counsel. It's been a place where Indigenous nations have come together to remember and relate going back thousands of years. Toronto did a lot of forgetting to become what it is today. All rivers were renamed, requickened, first in French and then again in the English image. Maps were updated, stripping away thousands of years of land-based knowledge. Though the name York tried, the Indigenous title Toronto won. Two years ago, when the pandemic hit, I found myself unemployed. And with three little kids, then 2, 4, and 6 years old, it could have been easy to just focus on them. And I did for a good portion of the time in the spring in particular. And then one day, a friend approached me with a fantastic business idea, an idea that merged both my technical background as I trained to in my undergrad as an electrical engineer and computer scientist. It merged that with my love of just working with people. And so we started a company in the midst of a pandemic called Goldfinch Energy that aims to help people reduce their greenhouse gas emissions associated with their homes. 2020 was actually kind of a good year to start business because so many people were home, and when we were in the discovery phase of developing Goldfinch Energy, we got a lot of meetings with people that we probably wouldn't have otherwise had, or people were really generous with their time. We both, my business partner and I, took a branding course, and that helped us launch our website and obviously kind of be very mindful and thoughtful about our brand. And at the same time, we trained to become energy advisors. I had to kind of cobble together my training because in 2020, there were a few courses online, but most organizations were still doing in person and had yet to sort of pivot and start to offer online training, which made it even more fun and interesting. And I was one of the first to be to do a portion of my training virtually, and one of the organization that trained me has subsequently offered a number of rounds of training now for people virtually. I wish I would have actually known about being an energy advisor years ago. I can't say enough good things about it. It's a great fit for me anyway. As Heather commented, I'm still wearing my overalls from the day. You know, I just, every day I get to go out, meet really interesting people, look at their homes, try and figure out what's going on. Today I was at a home where they had just moved in, and they've got some condensation on the windows, and to try and figure out what's going on there, what could be going on, and run a series of tests was really fun and satisfying when with the homeowner we sort of figured out an idea anyway of what we think is happening. Incidentally, they're also planning on installing solar panels, so I was able to help them, you know, get started in qualifying for the Greener Homes rebate that exists for solar panels right now. I think this was in my bio, but you know, I like to think of myself as a problem solver, and I've always been really excited by that, and that's what drew me to engineering in the first place. And there's such a great application in my work. The training itself that I took in 2020 was about 6 months, and just as Kathleen offered with Lakeland, it was very flexible. I had my kids at home, and so I was able to kind of fit it in between the time after they went to bed in some cases, or during nap times, and work at my own pace. And it worked well for me. There were 2 exams and then a practical component to be certified, and both exams were in person. The studying and the prep work were all online. So yeah, it worked really well, and allowed me to also focus on starting the business. It didn't actually cost a lot either to launch our business. We wanted to keep it, you know, accessible. What if we failed? So we spent a total of $15,000. The bulk of that was the training that we both took, and our kits, our blower doors, which allow us to test the air tightness in a home. And my business partner did a great job of getting us a grant, so that helped offset some of the costs and also gave us some marketing support. When we were in the exploration stage of our company, I remember distinctly having a conversation with someone who incidentally I reapproached to train me to be an energy advisor, and he's a fantastic trainer, but we don't quite see eye to eye on the market. And you know, it's great to see so many people here interested in retraining, because I see that the market and the demand for the kind of work that we're doing anyway is vast, and we're at the point where we're being asked to hire people to figure out how to clone ourselves. And you know, and it's only really been since June, at least in Ontario, that June 2021, that you know, we've kind of had more of a steady business to operate. Prior to that, it's been a lot of lockdowns. So I consider that a pretty good success, and we're making a pretty good income. I'm able to drop off and pick up my kids and sort of live the life that I like, a good balance that I would like. And but yeah, this person that trained me, he said to me that he was like, there is a demand, but the market is not very big for what you're doing. And continue to prove him wrong. He continues to be skeptical, but for now anyway, I see like things are only going to continue to grow. You know, we have the federal government as well offering, or will soon to be offering, an interest-free loan to help people retrofit their homes, which also on top of the Greener Homes program will just like further bolster people's interest and obviously make it more affordable. I think solar is a fantastic application for that interest-free loan, and so I see that potentially having huge implications on the solar industry in particular. So yeah, I guess as far as sort of seeing the market, right now I'm like booked at least 2 months out, and in a really great space with the business, being able to charge what we think is fair. We started off being like, offering free services, and then we felt really guilty about raising the rates, but we were like, we need to make at least minimum wage, and now we're definitely making a lot more than that. And we charge what we think is fair given our expertise, and the demand has not slowed down. Last year alone, I worked with 120 homeowners and helped at least 20 of them who were ready, not just with the plan, but actually follow through on the implementation of getting their homes retrofitted. And in Ontario, that largely, well, maybe some of you probably attended the retrofitting session earlier today, but largely in Ontario, because our grid is fairly clean, mostly renewables and some hydro, involves getting off of gas for the heating and then a little bit for the water. So helped 20 homeowners get their homes heating off of gas, and a few of them also had the financing to also install solar PV. I also believe in walking the talk. So last year, my partner and I decided this house that I'm in right now is going to be our forever home, forced in part because of the crazy cost of homes in Toronto, not alone in Toronto, but so we decided to really start investing in retrofitting our 100-year-old home. So last year we insulated our roof, got that to code, the flat roof in the attic, and got 10 kilowatts worth of solar PV on the roof. I'm still waiting for my meter from Toronto Hydro, but we're producing on the grid. I'm just not getting credits for it, but that's okay because it's winter. And this year we're finishing our basement. It's unfinished right now, but we'll be adding a lot of insulation and getting it pretty airtight, and then getting rid of our gas appliances, our water, and our heating, and switching to heat pumps. And we've got more to do. This main floor that I'm sitting on is super cold and drafty, but that's a project for future years. Yeah. So I think what I just wanted to share was just a little bit of my own experience, and maybe I didn't go into my background as much or what's happened in the last 2 years, but to kind of fill in those gaps, I did study as an electrical engineer and have had a bit of a mosaic of career experiences and shifts, and it's taken me a little bit longer than I hoped to find something that I really feel is a great fit for me, and I hope it doesn't take any of you here quite as long. Maybe now that you know about being an energy advisor, and I think that the industry that includes solar, includes home retrofits, is just starting to grow, and there's so much room. Whether that's solar PV, whether that's being an HVAC installer who doesn't talk people out of gas appliances and actually knows how to design and install a heat pump, to overseeing contractors to help them do a good job with home retrofits. So lots of opportunity, and if you have any more questions, I look forward to talking a little bit later on in this session.
Well, thanks so much, Sarah. And we're just going to turn that mic right over to Daryl and then pick up with you again when we get to the Q&A. Here we go, Daryl.
Thank you, Heather and Sarah. That's very inspiring. I love hearing the people opening their own businesses in this new energy efficiency and renewable sector. I'm Darryl Kaminski. I'm the president of Solar Alberta, but my day job is the utility guy at Edmonton Public Schools. It's kind of hard to describe because I do a number of different things, but yeah, utilities. Who knew? When you got 250, 60 buildings, you have to keep track of all those little line items on bills, but more on that later. I just wanted to kind of give a little bit more on the background because I too had to, find what fit for me. When I was a fair bit younger, I was in audio, video, and television, and what has that got to do with what I'm doing today? I'll get there. I ended up at the Banff Center for the Arts. I came to Alberta to retrain as a virtual reality video technician. Yeah, that field didn't really develop, but that was the beginning of the internet heyday, and I ended up doing digital media, CD-ROM, interactive, and Web 1.0, stuff like that. So a lot of the stuff that we were developing content for was, trying to get some technical thing across to people in using visual, interactive, virtual reality, whatever medium. And it was conventional energy firms that had the deeper pockets to do that kind of stuff. So that was great. But I started to hear more and more entrepreneurs, designers, dreamers come out of the woodwork and say, hey, what about this other aspect? Like Alberta's got so many other resources. They're not just all below the earth, unless you're talking about geothermal too, but above, wind, solar, water, run of river, as they call it. There's all kinds of things. And as I started hearing more about these stories, I wanted to be more a part of them, and was having a tough time figuring out how do you get into that? How do you get into a nascent field that's, very few people are doing it. So how do you, retrain? So found out that SAIT in Calgary was offering the electrical engineering technologist program. They were really pumping up that solar and wind stuff on all the brochures and stuff. To be honest, that was a little bit more hype than actual. There wasn't back then as much content in the renewable energy portion, but it was the great training that I needed to get into this new field. So I was able to do a lot of different things. I progressed from electrical designer, that's the what used to be blueprints is now AutoCAD and other CAD type work, to working for an energy consulting, engineering consulting firm doing energy auditing and advisor work. So a bit of what Sarah was talking about, but you can imagine very large industrial plants or commercial operations that needed help reducing their energy bills by little measures, as we called them, energy measures, energy conservation measures. And some of them were getting little incentives from the likes of BC Hydro and other provinces. Alberta didn't really have anything at that time, so we weren't doing as much of that here. So eventually I ended up doing more stuff like lighting, helping people to put in the new LED lighting and save a lot of money on all of these high energy, high intensity discharge lamps in factories and warehouses and stuff. And the results were amazing. Office buildings use the majority of their energy in things like lights. And, that's a great low hanging fruit, as we call it. And now that much of that has been plucked, there's other areas that we can focus on: motors, pumps, those kinds of things. It's really fascinating to keep up with all the new technology that's becoming available and finding a great payback for a company where they can get excited about wanting to do these improvements with or without rebates in this province. They can make economic sense. But some of the other stuff that I was really passionate about was solar. So eventually I was able to get a little bit of experience doing a bit of solar design work, and took a few courses to help me get there, and did some electrical product development. Can't go into too much detail, but there was some room in Calgary manufacturing sector to create devices that helped make things more convenient for people, ergonomic devices that some of them saved a little bit of energy too, as well as saving people back pain and so on from their desk jobs. It was an interesting space to work in. Manufacturing in Alberta, didn't really know that we had that much of a sector. Up here in Edmonton, where I am now, there's a lot more manufacturing, a lot more making. things. It's a little more blue collar than white collar. So I found myself up here in Edmonton doing energy auditing work for some of the manufacturing companies and some commercial entities, and found out about this job that was available at Edmonton Public Schools. They needed a utility coordinator or an energy coordinator or energy manager. I'm just using similar terms if you're doing a search for this kind of position. There's more of these every year. In fact, there's even a incentive from Municipal Climate Change Action Center, where they help, I think more than 80% of the wage is supplemented by MCCAC for small municipalities to hire energy managers to help their towns save money and green their operations. So this space that I find myself in today is booming. There's job ads every month in all across Western Canada, and just saw one earlier this week for somewhere in the interior of BC. Another small town wanted a municipal energy manager. So it was slow to start, and now it's growing really fast. Not just that role, of course, but energy auditors, energy advisors, and there's no shortage of work available in this space once you start peeling back the layers of how can some of the challenges in the individual provinces actually be a benefit. What I mean is, Alberta is a deregulated energy grid. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, you can buy energy directly from a retailer. Oh, okay. The retailer doesn't have to be one of the old boys club big businesses. It could be a medium-sized company that's developing a solar farm or a wind farm, and they can sell that energy directly to a major consumer of electricity. So you may have heard things like Budweiser buying from an entity here in Alberta. Amazon just bought from down in, it's going to bug me, where is it? Down south, Vulcan, around Vulcan County. I don't know exactly where, but Greengate Solar put that together, a very large 500 megawatt solar farm that's being developed right now, and Amazon's buying most of the energy from that. So that actually can only happen in Alberta for the most part, in that you can be a company and buy directly from a green energy generator. And that's exciting. And that's where, to a degree, Solar Alberta has been pivotal in, now I'm wearing my other hat as the president, but it's true. You know, Solar Alberta was around 30 years ago when there wasn't solar farms, there was hardly even solar roofs. And now we have solar is being seen on everything. It's being into, you know, building integrated on the vertical structure of a building to the horizontal part on the roof to on carports. And Solar Alberta has been there through the early growing pains of helping to get pilot projects done. And it's been a fascinating journey so far. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what else the entrepreneurial spirit in Alberta comes up with. There's so much opportunity in Alberta. And I'm going to say it again, with or without credits or incentives, there's business cases right now. And it's not just solar, it's efficiency. It's, oh man, I'll leave the rest to the Q&A session if you want to ask me more. But I think it's time for me to hand it off to Louisa.
Great. Thank you so much, Daryl. That's really amazing to hear all that. It's a bit hard to be the last speaker, especially following up on the amazing two talks. I'm going to cheat a little bit and use some slides to tell a bit of my story. So I hope everybody can see that. So this is a picture of me. This was my very first day starting to work in the oil sands. So for those of you that don't know me, I've been introduced, Louise Da Silva. I'm the Executive Director at Iron and Earth. And Iron and Earth is a nonprofit, and we have the mission to enable fossil fuel and Indigenous workers to implement and create climate solutions. So I myself am a former fossil fuel worker. And this was how I started my career. It was in the frozen landscape of Alberta. I'm from Southern Ontario, so anything below -20 is unthinkable to me. So it was a bit difficult when I started working up there, and the regular temperatures were exceeding -40, and that was completely the norm. I was working on steam-assisted gravity drainage exploration programs. And I'm sure that that's really familiar to a lot of you in the audience, but for those of you that don't know, it's a way of extracting oil from the subsurface. And throughout my life, I'd always had, and still do, have a very deep respect for nature. I'm very lucky to live right next to conservation land, and working in the wilderness of Alberta was amazing for me. I experienced firsthand this beautiful environment, and I was working as a professional. So for me, it was really quite exciting to have two things that I love doing, a job that I liked doing in an environment that I thought was just so beautiful and brilliant. For me, it was both an education and an adventure. And this was how I lived in the oil sands, very much in the trailers. This will again be a familiar sight to anybody who has worked in remote camps. It's very much you drive up and you're home. This is where you live with your 300 other colleagues in the middle of the forest. And every once in a while, you might see some wildlife roaming into the campsite. So this was where I worked. Again, if this looks familiar to some of you, this is a typical drill rig. On the left, you see the pipe that's going to basically go into the ground and drill. On the right, that red area, that's colloquial term, the doghouse, and that's where everybody works inside of, where the core samples come in, and where people like me, the geologist and whatnot, would have worked inside collecting those samples. Sometimes there was no doghouse and I had to work off the back of my truck. And so that was really interesting, really fun. And I was driven to succeed and learn as much as I could. This was me working inside of the doghouse. So through that exit sign, that's where you actually get to the drill itself. So you have the drill operator out there, and that's my colleague there on the right. And the core would have been coming in onto that table, and that's where I did my analysis. I was really proud of the work that I did. I really enjoyed what I was doing, because for me, it was putting my skills to use. And that was really important to me. And while I was working here, I also learned a lot of life skills too, because when you're working in an environment with, 300 strangers that end up becoming your extended family and community, it's something where you're really building relationships with people, and they become your friends, and they become your extended, like I said, your extended family. So when you're working out on the drill rig, sometimes you're 30 kilometers or more away from site, and you might not have had your dinner, because operations, of course, are running 24 hours a day, and it might be 3 in the morning and you started at 11 p.m. And the community was so strong that, somebody would come out and bring you your dinner, and without, asking for it. And that was really something quite special. A lot of people felt a very strong sense of pride working in this environment. And, this is what they were putting a roof over their heads with. This is what they were feeding their families with. This is what they were building their future with, was the income that they were generating from working out in the oil sands. And even though the conditions were harsh, the community was solid. Working in the oil sands was a great challenge. And, you know, at the time, it was good employment. The jobs were relatively secure because you knew that you'd come back the following drill season and you'd have your job. It supported growing families, and people came wide and far to work in the oil sands. I had colleagues that came from New Brunswick, Newfoundland and Labrador, from all over Alberta, from the north, from BC, like people just came from all over Canada. So from that perspective too, it was really amazing to be working in a place where you met so many people from different places in Canada that I would not have had that experience elsewhere. So I'm trying to paint for you the picture of what it's like to really live in that and work in that kind of fossil fuel community. It is a very tight-knit community, and it is one that fossil fuel workers, while they were in it, were very proud of being part of that community. But the reality is, it's quite polluting. It's not the best way to derive our energy sources. There will always be a place for things that derive from fossil fuel. I mean, we're all right now logging into this call through computers that have many parts in them that are derived from fossil fuels, but fossil fuels don't have to be our primary energy source. So when I left this particular drill season, because I worked out there a couple of drill seasons, I would bid my colleagues farewell, and I was confident that I would come back another season for another drill season to work. But of course, eventually that came to an end. And my career took a few twists and turns after the first signs of a slowdown in the oil patch. And looking to develop my geology career, I began my next adventure in Sweden. And my appreciation for nature continued, because even though this looks like a giant pile of rocks, it's actually surrounded by lush forests. And in my drive into work every day, I'd see reindeer, moose, or bears on my commute. And I would also see the aurora borealis. I moved to Melanesia. I worked amid the jungles and canopy forests. And it was there when my career started to focus more so on people and less on geology. I worked really closely with Indigenous communities. This is just a picture of, this was camp. So I went from living in trailers to living in tents, and learning what was important to the Indigenous people of the areas. Where I was working, it was on previously logged land, but the jungle grew back really quickly. And to the untrained eye, it looked really fulsome, but this is what the jungle looked like after having logging activities happening there for a number of years. This is actually, it looks quite fulsome, but it's not. This is a forest that is coming back. It's not healthy at all. So years later, I worked in Mexico, and there had been a multi-year drought here. And so again, with me thinking about, you know, my love of nature and wanting to work in sustainability and wanting to focus more so on people, this is when it really came to a head, to a pass for me, because I couldn't help but think, how is it that people in the local community can live in such conditions where there's such a deep drought, where, you know, I was seeing dead animals on the side of the road, and not because, you know, they'd been killed by traffic accidents, but because they had collapsed from just a lack of water. So how is it that operations in a mining environment could sustain themselves and also the local population? How was that even possible when we were in a desert and there was already limited water to begin with? So it just furthered my want and desire to be working in sustainability. But of course, moving into sustainability was a bit tough, because unless I wanted to go back to school and learn specifically a degree in sustainability, I had to find other avenues to make that change. So I did it the best way that I know how, which is just by throwing myself into whatever kind of interests me. So I got really lucky and I managed to find employment with a grassroots environmental conservation organization here in Canada that preserves land in Ontario along the UNESCO Niagara Escarpment. And it promotes for people to enjoy the flora and the fauna along the trail. I worked with land planners, ecologists, fundraisers, community managers, volunteers, conservationists. And, you know, if it takes a whole village to raise a child, working in that organization taught me that it takes an entire village of professionals to build a movement and an organization that can make a difference to inspire others to change and protect what you love. And working at that organization is what taught me to inspire to do that change. So all of those experiences, when I was looking and reflecting upon my career and how I started in the fossil fuels, how I understood what it's like and how challenging it is to work in an environment like that and try and transition your career into a different, more sustainable employment, working with Indigenous communities, having my passion for sustainability, conservation and environment, and also helping adults to transition to rewarding careers. When I discovered Iron and Earth, to me, it felt like a natural fit. And so now I spend my days helping to empower people to develop and implement climate solutions within their own communities, within their own organizations, doing retrofits, repurposing, like our Renewables project in Taber, Alberta, where we're changing over orphaned and abandoned drill wells into solar farms. For me, it is absolutely and completely rewarding. It is, you know, the demand exists exactly like Daryl's saying, particularly in solar. The sector is expanding. Alberta has some of the richest resources in Canada. And, you know, I think back to my colleagues in the oil sands and how they were proud of the work that they did. And I think that we can transfer that pride into the renewable sector that is now growing and growing and growing across Canada. I encourage everybody to take a leap of faith and make the change. Thank you so much.
And thank you. Daryl, Sarah, Louisa, if you want to join me on screen now for the Q&A, I just want to thank you all before we begin. It's just so wonderful and inspiring to hear your stories. And thanks for cheating and showing a few photos at the end, Louisa. I feel like I should in the future let everybody show a few photos because it's kind of wonderful. I suspect Sarah has a child out of bed. And that is awesome, by the way, because it's really great when there are, you know, moms around too doing this retraining and not just folks pre-kids. So hi, Sarah, was I guessing right? Do you have anyone out of bed? You guys can turn your mics off if it works for you with your background. I'm just going to remind everyone to throw some questions into the Q&A box. I see a few have already popped up there and you're welcome to keep adding to them. Before we begin the Q&A, I want to make sure everybody who's in attendance today is aware that Solar Alberta does have a weekly jobs roundup for the solar sector in Alberta. We push it out to all of our social media channels every Wednesday. And so I hope if you're not following us yet on social media, please do if you're looking at transitioning into the solar sector, because as our speakers were saying, you know, we're about to go from over 700 megawatts on the grid today to over 10,000 megawatts on the grid in less than 2 years. So there are jobs to be had in solar in Alberta, and you need to follow our list to find some of them. But let's get going with some of these questions here. So Garth is wondering, he says, I have always been interested in solar and I'm a journeyman electrician with 15 years experience. I plan to start up my own solar renewable energy company. What advice would you give to someone who is moving into solar / renewable energy, that industry? Sounds like he could use some advice about starting businesses, but also transitioning in as an electrician. Who wants to take a first stab at that one?
I'm going to take a quick stab at because electrical engineering technologists at NATE and SATE, a large portion of them are actually electricians. They are the whole swath, including journeymen, And so when you're tired of humping the tools and the cables, you come in to the office job via an electrical technologist type of transition. That's one path, anyway, that I witnessed myself. And I think it's been only a lot greater in the last 15 years since I was at SATE. I'll leave the business entrepreneurial aspect to the other ladies here.
Feel free
Thank
to
you.
jump in.
I'll just jump in and put a plug for Iron and Earth. We're actually going to be running some upskilling courses coming up this April. And what we do is we have an installation in a community and we bring in 15 people with backgrounds in fossil fuels, or if you're an Indigenous worker, and you learn how to do the installation. So it's 5 days in class, 5 days hands-on. And then after that, you kind of have all the skills you need because you're already a journeyman electrician. You just need that little bit of upskilling. And then it's just maybe picking up a bit of business knowledge on how to run your business, which you can ask Sarah all about. But in terms of that upskilling piece on what you need to do to get there, you can reach out to us. Anything
to add, Sarah? It's okay if you don't add to this one.
No, I have so many things. That's why I don't want to. This is the first question. Yeah, I mean, I think when we were starting, there's so many people who will just give you a whole bunch of free advice. So I'm going to do the same for you. But my number one tip is listen to the industry, and so if people who have experience but don't know the industry or don't know your specific sector are giving you advice, they might not know what you need to do. I'm speaking mostly about sort of marketing and pricing and how you position yourself. And we found in particular that, because we got this grant, it came with some marketing training, and a lot of it was you need to have a social media presence and all these things. And at one point we're like, oh my gosh, how can we keep up with that? We need to hire someone. And consistently we've kept to the sort of the mantra of in this industry, if you are just someone who shows up authentically and does a good job, and the work just sells itself, solar sells itself. So if you come across as cheesy or whatever, I think people can see through that. And we also were really honest. When we didn't know something, we'd look into it, get back to people, and people appreciated that too. So yeah, don't feel pressure to kind of be polished and perfect, and offer what you can and be honest about it. And, a little bit of marketing and branding helps, but don't feel like you need to kind of have this amazing thing that you then can't sustain as well.
Yeah, good points. Yeah, and I think we had an interesting session yesterday called Working with Alberta's Wire Providers. And I want to recommend that as well to folks on the line today, because we do have a very unique solar system, energy system here in Alberta, and it can be a little challenging to navigate if you're not used to navigating the various wire providers. You have to jump through their hoops to get any install approved. And something that was fascinating for me to learn yesterday, they focus a lot on the design side, and their presentations were very design focused and much less install focused. And so that was good for me to hear. And I find it intriguing too. In the Q&A, you'll see there was one question from an electrician and the very next one was from an engineer. And I suggest you might need to start working together, because what I was learning about in the wire session yesterday was, for your initial designs and everything, it's really good to have an engineer stamp it, in fact, required. And then for your install, you're not going to get it approved without an electrician signing off. So it was just interesting because I hadn't really realized the importance of some of these pairings. So I also realized, Sarah, in your story, the importance of the partnership that you developed. And I suspect getting a good business going in Alberta also means finding the right partners who have complementary skill sets to make sure you can get through all the hoops that you need to jump through for your install. But I really like how you each spoke to different aspects of that. So thank you. So on to Kuldeep's question. He says, sorry, he, she, or they, I shouldn't assume. Can you suggest a few courses and or certifications to start up my own solar renewable energy company? I am an engineer with an MBA, and I heard the Iron and Earth courses are going to get started soon. That's great. I know they were on hold for COVID reasons, but when do you think you'll be launching your next set of rapid retraining?
In April of this year.
Okay.
It's going to be just south of Alberta, Edmonton, the location.
Okay. And I had a related question for Daryl. Like, how similar are the SATE and NATE programs? For example, NATE is apparently training people in air source heat pumps, which is all the rage. And as Sarah's mentioned, I mean, you could probably have a business in Alberta right now just doing air source heat pumps because everyone's calling me about that. And anyways, does SATE also offer that? You know, are they different programs or?
I'm going to get myself in trouble here with my alma mater, but I've been very impressed with Nate and our colleague, our partner Jim over there. He and his crew do a really good course, and I think I saw somebody in the chat saying I'm a Nate graduate in his course. I've worked with many people at Solar Alberta in this volunteer capacity who have been graduates of NATE as well. SATE doesn't have quite the same laboratory setup that, at least not that I've seen or heard about. I may not be up on my alumni news, but I'm very impressed with NATE's. They also have this interesting little grid simulation laboratory. I don't know exact terminology, but when somebody has a new invention device and they want to see how it would work, they can simulate it in a sandbox type of environment at NATE. That's pretty rarefied. There's not too many of those around Western Canada. But I also want to plug our the intro by Kathleen. Lakeland has some courses as well that complement other things that we're talking about.
Yeah, it's pretty neat to see the number of post-secondaries around Alberta that are picking up renewables. I think if you're doing wind, Lethbridge is usually the place, the hot spot for wind. But I know with solar, we also have courses too. And I would encourage you, if you're interested in checking them out. I would say our courses are really good for folks who are already, active professionally and they're just looking to kind of upskill, as Louisa talks about, or they're really good for folks who are just trying to figure out if they want to do a longer course. So a lot of NATE grads, they come and take ours and then they realize, yeah, I do like this stuff. Like I like the design and modeling. I like learning about electrical codes. I'm actually going to go and do more of this. So if you just want to kind of dip your toe in, then you can definitely do that with our courses. And I would say probably the advantage of the Solar Alberta courses is affordability because we're not for profit. So we pride ourselves on that. But there is actually going to be are we allowed to talk about it yet, Louisa? Your website is that a secret still? Sorry.
Well, we're having our official launch in March, but anybody who's interested can already go take a look. It's climatecareerportal.com, and it's built to help you see how your existing skills as a journeyman, welder, plumber, whatever it is that you do, will actually transfer into the renewable sector. And it breaks it down by where the jobs are available, where the projects are geographically located across Canada, where there's some training as well. So that could also be helpful for you because you can see the training in your local area. I will caution by saying that we have worked on a beta version of the website. So that is what's going to be officially launched in March, but have a look already. It's climatecareerportal.com.
We'll call this the soft launch. Thanks. Sorry for jumping the gun there.
No, it's good.
We're submitting our courses to it. So here's another question for you. Erin is wondering, hello, I'm drawn to the field of solar energy and want to get into the field. My experience is healthcare, so I don't actually have related experience. I think they mean from a technology sort of approach to solar energy. What options do I have if I want to get into the field within a year or two?
A year or two. So if it's 2 years, trade school, right? I mean, I keep harping on this, not just because I'm a state graduate, but it takes about 4 years at university, right? Or more if you want to be ambitious. But you can do a year or two in a technical school or a polytechnic, as they call SAIT. And you can even stretch that into longer if that works with your life balance. They're very flexible. And there's, of course, distance ed options available that seem to have picked up in popularity over the last couple of years, I hear.
Yeah, Sarah, did you do one in Nova Scotia? Did I remember hearing that right? Or your distance ed program?
Yeah, the energy advisor training I did was through a nonprofit called
Yeah.
Energy in Nova Scotia.
So it won't get you into solar, but it'll get you into energy efficiency, and then you could probably much more easily transition from there, I suppose, if you want to. Then it becomes diversification of your business instead of just trying something brand new. So that's kind of cool.
I'm actually trying to figure out what the other cross tie-ins are from healthcare to solar, and I'm trying to see what a natural bridge might be.
Customer, client care. I mean, there's, I think any type of relationship building piece would be a natural fit in my mind.
Yeah, I guess it depends on what aspect you are thinking of for
Right.
solar
Are you
energy.
doing surgery?
Yeah. Are you wanting to be up on the roof, a roof monkey, as we call it sometimes? No offense, but if you want to be an installer type, that's a type of training. And if you want to be more of a administrative or clerk type, there's needs for that. Absolutely. If you have great skills in spreadsheets, Excel, and the Google Docs and stuff like that, this is all about math. Electricity is about math. So if you're good at math and Excel, you can cross train.
Yeah, last year we had Alicia here, and she had a background in HR and was also what's the new term for stewardess? Sorry.
Flight attendant.
Thank you. She was a flight attendant and then an HR professional, and then she transitioned into solar through Lakeland. And it's just really interesting. She was talking last year about how many of her other skills were very transferable and still relevant in this field. So it's true for me as well. I don't come from a technical background, but there's a space for me here in the not-for-profit sector. So it also depends probably how much money you want to make, right? I always say to folks, right, if you want to, there are people today in Alberta being hired to work on some of those utility scale builds in Southern Alberta who have not done any training at all. If they can turn a screwdriver and learn on the job, they'll take them because they're so desperate for staff. But if you want a pretty good paying job, a stable job, if you want to maybe manage some things, then yeah, like Daryl's saying, you need probably a good 2-year program, or for solar, that is.
That's may even be options within the health and safety side, right? Of this.
Right. Yeah, good point. Yeah, it's becoming such a robust field that there's really more and more space for everyone. All right. Now, Cameron is wondering what skills, experience, credentials are most important for companies looking to hire in renewable sales roles?
Sales
roles. I think you watch The Office a lot, probably.
Yeah, there's inside sales and outside sales. Inside is you're answering the phone, taking the calls, and often the web-based ordering platform, portal, whatever. Outside sale is you're out in the field. You know what it is. So this has not been my strength, I got to say, but I understand that it helps to have an outgoing personality, a good network. But I think also be more of a listener than a talker. You're ultimately trying to solve somebody's problem. So if you can listen with both ears and empathize with what their problem is and actually have a real solution, that's great. But don't be afraid to say, you know what, I don't know. Or actually, I know of another company that we work with occasionally that has a better solution for you. It's okay to turn the work as a referral and not try to grab what you can from it. And I respect those types of salespeople most.
Sarah, you want to add some?
Yeah, I do, just because we have ended up sort of doing solar sales, we have a partnership with the solar installer, and I'll often actually on behalf of people seek out quotes. And the other piece is just, I would say, on top of what Daryl's saying, being able to sort of understand who you're talking to. And I feel like there's many different types of people, but broadly there's kind of like two buckets that I find. There's people who are super like they're technically oriented and they want to nerd out on the details, and so you like giving them the details, helping them understand what it is. It might be a new industry to them, but they're going to learn it quickly. And then there are people who like that will just be like speaking Greek, and so they'll want to talk in maybe the dollars and why are they doing this, to Daryl's point, like understanding their reason. And just being able to explain it from that angle as well. So so that you can try and see if it fits with what they're interested in.
Yeah, those are really good points. I know when I was running my own consulting company, it was really important to have just a really strong mutual referral sort of network, where you basically have relationships with other people who, refer to you. I don't think I would have gotten any of my first clients without a mutual referral system. And then once you have that, then the clients start referring for you. But it does seem to be really important to have those networks. So that networking ability would be another type of characteristic, probably just willingness to put yourself out there, right? And it can be it's hard for shy folks, I imagine. Larry's wondering, are there any opportunities for programming, monitoring, and LOT development?
Internet of Things, IoT.
Oh, IoT. Thank you.
Yes, actually,
I'm not good at acronyms.
I'm sorry to keep jumping into the beginning of these. I want others to speak to, so I'll keep this short. But IoT, or Internet of Things, is a kind of interesting, exciting space because you can create little devices that do neat things, but you have to watch, because my experience with them in my day job has been that they don't always have the robust industrial quality to them. They are more consumer level than industrial level, and you need to have good solid hardware. Programming apps and stuff like that, security is a big issue. You have to understand security protocols and make sure that you don't create a backdoor into your customer's network and then cause all kinds of problems, like, I don't know, certain kind of locking up of servers and then ransoming them. That has happened through IoT technology. So
Wow.
But I don't want to knock the whole area. I'm just saying that, you can learn how to write apps and how to hack together some hardware, but getting it onto the market as a robust, reliable, long-term solution, it's tough.
Anything to add on that, Sarah or Louisa?
Yeah, I think if my organization is any example, I mean, we have so many people that come from the fossil fuel industry, and programming plays a big role in the development of these large infrastructure projects, right? You have to be able to plan out to the millimeter how it is that things are going to be laid out. So, if you're doing a small project, there might be room for, there's no room for error nowhere, but like you can maybe be a little more haphazard with where the placement of things are, for example. But when you're looking at a much larger system, you have to be, programming is going to play a huge role in how it is that all of this fits together. Also thinking about, like, if you're looking at how is it that you're going to reach your clients and where is it that you want to be, having the skills in developing an app or having like those kinds of skills with the Internet of Things is going to be extremely helpful to know where other businesses are sitting at. So it's one of the requests that we've been having coming at us quite a lot lately is, let's say you're coming from a technical background, but you don't necessarily want to transition into a technical side on the renewables. People would be maybe perhaps wanting to transition into more of that, like softer skills of like programming or whatnot. There's definitely space for it. And it might not be the most obvious one, because the obvious one is, of course, what you see, like, people holding solar panels and doing the physical installation. But behind all of that, there's a lot of technology that goes into the design and the arrays and what goes back into the grid and all of this. So yeah, there's definitely space for it.
Mm. Yeah, and maybe someday there'll be more space for manufacturing in Canada too. Who knows? I'm not sure, but we had a fun nerding out for net zero panel on Tuesday night. And I kind of figured we'd never do any manufacturing here, but the conversation led me to question that, whether maybe I'm wrong. So
Actually, I want to touch on that for a moment. I have had the opportunity to work with a lot of computer circuit manufacturers right here in Alberta. There's in and around Calgary, Cochrane is a hotbed of circuit development. A very large GPS navigation company bought up a little Cochrane company and liked it so much, they moved their official headquarters to Cochrane.
okay.
And you may know them as Garmin. That kind of stuff is happening in the foothills of the Rockies for sure. And up here in Edmonton, I know of a number of hardware manufacturers that are making their own devices, and they come from the oil patch. These things are, I'm not going to say bomb proof, but these things are meant to work in harsh environments. And you don't get a lot of chances to revisit a site. It either works and it's going to work a long time, or don't come back and try to sell your stuff to us again next.
Mhm.
So the one other thing I wanted to say was, if you're having a tough time transitioning into programming, those Excel spreadsheets I keep talking about, anybody that is really good at writing macros or database tie-ins or APIs or application program interfaces, all these solar inverters have these APIs, and you can actually hook into them and create your own dashboard for displaying the data. And you can take other kinds of data from other sources. Maybe it's the gas, maybe it's the water, maybe you make a utility interface.
Mm.
Hint, hint, we're working on that right now at Edmonton Public.
You're giving us some foreshadowing too, just like Louisa.
Very important field.
So we are past quarter after, and I wanted to bring us over to the Zoom meeting room. There are questions still from Dean, Kuldeep, and Chloe. I would ask if you three could make sure to join us in the Zoom meeting room. You could ask your questions in person. I will still moderate the Q&A in the Zoom meeting room. So don't worry, it's not going to be a total free for all, but it's just a nice chance for us to see a few of the faces of the people in attendance tonight and make this a little bit more personal. So there is a Zoom meeting room link in the chat now. I want to end the formal webinar portion by thanking you all ever so much for participating, and to Lakeland for sponsoring this evening. It's a really special treat. I love hearing the stories. I think that's what really inspires folks and helps them make the transition. So this is really important work we're doing tonight, even if it feels very relaxed. And now if you'll join me in the Zoom meeting room, the link is in the chat. You'll have to click on the link in the chat and then exit the webinar. Don't exit the webinar before you click on the chat link. I'm going to wait here and make sure you all make it across before I join you.